Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Captain Nova. This is a Netflix movie, conveniently. It's an hour and 25 minutes in length, so really that was the kind of the real incentive to go on and review this film. So, in all honesty, like, with kind of the visuals and maybe even possibly a trailer and stuff along those lines, this movie can go on and give people the illusion that, of course, it's going to be a good film, but when you really go through it and really watch it, it doesn't come off that way. We, of course, have a story that really hangs on, like, the concept of it and some futuristic visuals, but really it's just a chase around film where, like, if these people are really from the future, couldn't they have come up with the perfect way for them to easily and quickly, if it all came down to one thing and one thing alone, to save the future, wouldn't they immediately go on and completely from the future to the past wipe that whole thing out to where there is not even a thought of reasonably there being this future problem? But then again, you go on and you have ships towards the end of this movie who go to a number of places that could factor in to what is to be the horrible planet Earth within the future, and to basically just tell people, hey, just stop what you're doing. Yeah, like, really, that's gonna this kind of becomes a um like give a hoot don't pollute kind of movie, where it's, of course, like one of those, like, hey, we need to try to reverse global warming before we go on, and it gets so bad, like, either way, it just feels like we're eventually going to have a Earth that is not going to be uh like, it's not going to be the best Earth. Either way, it seems that people are going to tell you that, like Earth is, like, eventually going in a number of years from now, uh going to get more and more just like to where we need to desperately go on and find a alternate living planet to just head there, because eventually we're going to just exhaust all the resources here and we're going to need to go somewhere else. So you would have thought that these guys would have gone on and, instead of try to do time travel to just try to prevent all this from possibly happening, you would have thought that they should have just invented a way to get to some other planet that was just like Earth and start all over again, because that would have been a heck of a lot easier or a heck of a lot smarter, instead of just building a time travel machine just to prevent, like, oh man, well, this is the one event that was to make this Earth just turn to crap. It's like Earth was bound to turn into crap either way. It's just like, I guess that fast tracked it, but anyways. So with this story, like, I immediately just felt like there was a lot of running around in this film. It was a chase movie, and really, I didn't think that there was, like, much thought put into this film besides concept. I think really, like, someone was to have gotten the idea of, like, well, hey, like, let's kind of have this be a movie that is to go into time travel and wormholes, and, like, I think really we just have Netflix that is kind of trying to take the success of the Atom Project and find any movie that is somewhat similar, and that happened to be Captain Nova. So isn't it convenient that this movie like got put on Netflix right after the Adam Project was? Like they were trying to find like a smaller budget Adam Project, and so this is technically what that is. So with that said, let's go into that double five time territory. Let's just go into spoilers about this one. Like this is just I would have to say that this is like not a hard bad film, but like honestly, like I would not say for anyone to really go in, watch it, and come out of it saying like, "Man, I really enjoyed this film." Unless like you just had an hour and 25 minutes to kill, and it's either watching nothing or watching this, then go ahead. Just this movie was not anywhere close to good, okay, or anything like that. It was just boring for the most point. Um, so with that said, let's go out of our way to go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. Without that, I'm going to spoil this movie. So we of course have Nova, who is to be 37 years old in this future, of course, where Earth has gone to crap, where we basically see Earth as this kind of sand wasteland. And so Nova is going out, and it seems that her suit is to tell her that she is uh, to have too much like methane and uh, dioxide and all these kinds of chemicals that are telling her she needs to go back into a sheltered place. So Nova, of course, is to go on and decide to go on and do time travel, which leads her to have this ADD robot next to her. And so Nova is to go on and time travel and go inside this wormhole, and we find out that Nova is to change from a 37-year-old woman to, of course, a much younger woman who I believe is like 12 years old. So because I guess like time travel affects like you going from being an older person to being a much younger person for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why they decided to do that part of the story in this movie, but I guess to just try to do time travel differently. So we go on and we have Nova, who is to crash her future plane or future ship. And so it seems that a guy named Nos is to find her with his kind of uh, his four wheeler. So we have Nos who goes on and is to have ADD, this little robot that we see here in the corner here. He goes on and is to retrieve Nova, who is just driving around, and is forcing him to want to go and help uh, these two future characters here, both Nova and ADD. So Nas decides to go and retrieve this girl and have ADD follow. All the while, we have, I guess, the this police slash military going on, and well, I think it's just the cops at first, but eventually the military gets involved. So the cops end up going and they find this ship. They kind of they go on to kind of seal it off, and then they start kind of thumbing through it and trying to like figure out what exactly this is. They start to realize that it seems like this equipment is to not be so far off from what already tech that they have. And so I'm thinking in my brain, for every time you have a time travel movie, you always want to go on and hide the ship or whichever. Hence why you would like in Back to the Future, like Doc at some points would go on and try to hide the DeLorean, because if somebody was to stumble upon a time traveling machine, then we would really just have it to where everybody could just go on and be like, oh, here's some future tech. And now, like in the past, technology can be way more advanced because we have some guy like poking through this and like, oh, well, okay, well, I can now figure out how to invent so and so thing. And so now we have it to where these people are to go on and uh, go and have like a person uh, messing with time to where all of a sudden a person who wasn't a billionaire all of a sudden can become a billionaire because of all this future tech that is just lying around. So we go on into this movie, and so Nas is to take Nova to some factory with his four-wheeler, and so he Nas lays Nova down, and we have ADD that's asking if Nas is some kind of doctor, and Nas is like, well, of course not. And then ADD is like, well, you should leave here because like you're no use to us. But we also have ADD that wants like Nas to like tell nobody that they were there or anything like that. I'm like, should Nova immediately go to the police or go to whoever to try to prevent any of this from happening? You would think that immediately, like, these people are already going to believe whatever Nova is going to say because of this big futuristic looking ship and all this weird technology. And so you would think that they would immediately just like, okay, well, obviously this girl is telling us the truth. So we need to go on and stop whatever she wants us to stop. Because it might conflict with the future. Because that's kind of where they go, anyways. That's kind of where they go, anyways, with this movie. So we go on here, and we have Nas who's heading home, I guess, to his drunk relative. And so all of a sudden, it seems like one of the detectives is going on and kind of thumbing through the ship, and it seems like there's multiple fingerprints of the same woman, but it's kind of different sizes. And so they go on and figure out that Nova is some 12-year-old girl, and they try to track this girl down, and it's not the same girl. We have this detective that goes on and is trying to question Nova and like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the girl's like, well, I want to be an Air Force fighter pilot or probably an astronaut. It's like, well, of course, that's your technical answer. So we go on and have Nas, who is to make his way home, and it seems that he comes back to the factory to go on and see how Nova is, to kind of give her things like a first aid or any number of things to kind of help her. And so all of a sudden we have the detective that makes it to Nas's house and is to go on and ask about Nas, because this detective just kind of walks right into this guy's house. It's like, hey, do you have this kid here? And it's like, well, yeah, I think I know exactly what you're looking for. And so this detective goes on and is to make it to this factory where both Nova and Nas are. And so both Nova and Nas are to steal this car, and Nova is just tell Nas that she's gonna give him a lot of money if they go on and help Nova here. But you can't tell anybody who they are, like they don't exist, and all this stuff. And once they start talking, Nas is going on of like, well, like I'm not listening to you because you told me you don't exist anymore. So, and it's kind of a joke. We have ADD, like kind of an annoying character, but also there's some like I guess there's some interesting liners that this guy gives at some points, but I don't know, just like people could kind of feel differently about ADD. That they could say it's like, why does this character even exist? Or really, they could just be like, oh, well, it's a cute character, and blah 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 blah, whatever. However you feel about this movie. So we go on into this film, and so the idea here is Nova is going to this one place where these guys are having this secret meeting, and so Nova kind of sneaks into this place and is to go on and try to talk to this guy, who of course is Simon Vach Jr., and try to convince him to not drill at the North Pole because Santa Claus will get ticked. Immediately when I heard the idea was to not drill at the North Pole, I was like, is the North Pole an actual place? Legitimately? I never really ever like put much thought into that. Where like I know there's like Antarctica and like there is some kind of wintry environments in some part of the Earth and whichever, but like in my brain, I am just like the North Pole like exists, does it? Like I have to question that. It's weird. And I couldn't have even been bothered to go and Google like, does the North Pole really exist? Because I just thought that that was the weirdest thing that they could have gone on and talked about here in this film. They really could have just had it to be any real location, but I guess the North Pole has to be the goofiest one. So so they're going on and talking to this guy, and so we have this girl who has done her research and is saying that there's going to be a problem with them drilling, and the guys go on and tell this girl, it's like, well, I'm sorry, girl, but like there is like a very like slim chance that this is actually going to have a problem with drilling here. Like it's like a like it's a like a it's like a it's like a point zero something like chance. So it's like very slim to none. And but like this girl is just so convinced that it's going to happen, that there's going to be a problem drilling here because girl from future. So we go on and like the people are just like, no, like we're not going to take this, we're not going to believe you. And so they push this girl out of this meeting, and so now we have it where ADD is like, well, okay, we're going to just plant ADD on this guy's car, and then both Nova and both Nas are going to go on and find where this guy lives. There's another part of this movie that I didn't mention, and we had Nas and Nova that had car trouble. Like it seems that the car was starting to smoke, and so they meet with a guy named Alton, and so Alton is to kind of tow them with his car to his house where they're fixing the car, and they end up kind of giving these guys like clothes, and like they even find out that these two kids are kind of wanted, and so like they don't go on and they don't turn them in. They're like, hey, just go on and just do whatever you want. So we have Alton, who has this cop that comes coming by, and so Alton tries to hide this car, but all of a sudden the car comes flying out of this place where he stored it in, and he's like, well, like that's my cousin's car. And so all of a sudden this cop is saying like, well, seems like we find that car. So really at this point we have the two kids that are just kind of running, and they of course run to this facility that these people are meeting at. So we have the officer, the detective, that goes on and meets with Alton and starts asking them questions. And the more and more that they ask, it seems that Alton eventually and this woman is to kind of confess uh, about what they did and what happened, because really there's a certain amount of evidence that kind of just makes them look guilty. So they go on and tell the truth. So, which immediately should have gotten them arrested because kind of working with these people. Anyways, pushing on. So we go on and have both Nova and both Nas make their way to, of course, uh, Simon Volk Jr.'s home. And so what they do is ADD is to have this kind of hologram, like as if he's R2D2 and he's going to show him Princess Leia. Come on, Simon, you're my only hope. So what they do is that they go on here and they show a future hologram of Simon himself. And so an older version of Simon is convincing younger Simon to do not drill. And if I were Simon, I wouldn't be all that convinced that like this is just an older version of me. It doesn't make sense. Plus, like there's nothing about this Simon that looks like this other Simon. It just doesn't really like click. So we have Simon who's just like, what is this? Some kind of like kind of terrorist tactic or intimidation tactic to stop me from drilling. And so at some point we go on and have it where the police end up getting called, and so this time around we have both ADD and we have Nova who ends up getting shot. Because of course they are to figure out that Nova is to have this gun that is to put somebody on pause for a number of hours, because it seems that Nova can't go on and kill people because that may conflict with the future. So she can just kind of put people on pause while they're just kind of like, whoa, they're kind of like in like slowly moving, and they have to kind of think about like their life and their past and whichever. So going on, so now we just have it where Nova is in this hospital, and so the guys are going on and looking at this ADD, and so the detective is talking to her tech person, and the tech person is kind of saying, it's like, well, like it seems like this tech isn't that far advanced. You can kind of see exactly where any number of this stuff could lead to future tech, but it's not like well off advanced. So like kind of saying that like whatever is to kind of happen from this future stuff isn't going to happen like far too long from now. So we go on and have ADD who comes back to life here and is to grab this gun and is to make his way back to Nos, because Nos all of a sudden was to run off away from Nova after all the shooting was going on. Nova runs back to Alton here and is to say like, hey, like Nova's hurt. Like they came for her. They tried to take her down. So they now go on and have ADD here talk to Nos and tell him that he's going to need to rescue Nova. So Nos goes back to this base and is to kind of tell him, hey guys, like, I'm here, come on and just kind of bring me in. So they don't do a pat down on this kid. They just kind of let him walk on in. And so all of a sudden he ends up getting interrogated by one of these military men. And so it just gets to the point where Nas just goes on and starts like firing away with this gun, pausing these people, and he goes on to retrieve Nova because ADD is to tell Nas that Nova needs to go back to the future, and because like the longer that she stays here, more than likely uh like she needs to go back to her time. So Nas goes on is to find uh Nova's gear and her suit and her helmet. So Nas helps Nova put all of her gear on, and then he just kind of shrugs her over his shoulder and makes his way to after while hauling Nova here to put her in her ship and is bringing her back to the future. So we realize that Nova did jack crap nothing. And I'm like, dude, we're almost done with this movie, and Nova did nothing. What pointless endeavor was that? So now we go on and we have it where Nova is to basically say, yeah, like I didn't change anything. There was nothing I could do. I failed. And so, like, well, yeah, like you failed. Yeah. So, but the one difference was now Nova has a husband and a kid, and that husband is Nas. So, like, because Nas was to go on and try to kiss Nova, and Nova's like, well, hey, I'm actually a 37-year-old, like, woman, and so yeah, I'm not the person you think that I am. And so which leads to Nas going on and like eventually being her husband and having a kid with her. So now Nova is saying it's like, well, hey, like if we go back in time again, we're gonna have to go back in time from when exactly I left. But this time around, we're going to have to raise the stakes. We're going to have to try and have a number of these ships all come back so they can all convince everybody who's kind of way overly polluting the world that we're going to have to try and stop them and figure out a way to basically scare them into stop doing what they're doing. So Nova goes back in time with a number of ships and is to kind of retake Nos to go back to the North Pole, or go to the North Pole where Santa is not there, to convince Simon again to just stop what he's doing, to basically just bring in this future weaponry to like wave in his face to try and stop him. And so like this fear tactic had kind of gotten Simon just like, oh, okay, I'll do whatever you want, kind of thing, as they go on and they shoot his dad, and his dad is just like paused because like his dad is like, I'm not falling for this garbage, and so he tries to go on and hit the button, whatever button it is, to just drill. So they pause him, and so Simon is like, okay, I'll do whatever you want, like please, like I believe you and whatever, because Simon is almost convinced that this girl is telling the truth. So now we have it where all these UFOs, all these future ships are flying around, and news is covering it, and so like the message really here is that like they're all trying to stop all these people that are effing up the world, or effing up the earth, and trying to stop them from polluting the world. Like as if this is Captain Planet. Captain Planet, he's a hero. Take pollution down to zero. You know, basically, it's Captain Planet. Come on, people. It's pretty much Captain Planet. that comes from the future. Like, dang, you know what? We gotta write a Captain Planet freaking film that has it where we have like this goofy guy that comes from the future because of how bad the Earth is and how polluted it is, and how everybody that kind of comes from the distant future is to all be like light blue and has green hair, and is to go on and desperately like travel back in time from the future to go to the past to try to prevent all pollution so they can save the world. And it's freaking Captain Planet, and he goes on and he gives kids that are in the present time who also want to go on, and like it's almost like freaking Power Rangers, like find a bunch of kids with attitudes and want to go on and battle to save the Earth, and like we go on and we could create a really interesting Captain Planet that kind of seems more relevant, um, but isn't the exact same kind of approach as the other Captain Planet. It could be really unique, could be really interesting, um, could be convincing, maybe. Anyways, so with that said, after they kind of do the whole event where all the UFOs are flying around, and so Nas is kind of saying like, as well as any number of like newscasters and whatever, all saying that they're like these future ships are going to come back as many times as it needs to for them to correct like the future from going on and overly polluting planet Earth. So this kind of means that there's possibly going to be a sequel out of Captain Nova, Captain Nova 2. Even though technically this movie was done in 2021, I doubt there's going to be a sequel unless like somebody just like, hey man, like let's just put more money into this thing, because that might be a thing. So with that said, yeah. So after what is to all transpire and happen, it seems that Nova is to go on and make her way back to her own time, and like that's really just it. Like we don't really see the aftermath of the true like like there isn't like this perfect Earth that they come back to at the end of the movie, because that would seem irrational. But like the movie just ends with really Nos going on and realizing that he's probably going to live with Atlas or Alton by the end of this movie. But anyways, with that said, I think I'm just going to get out of here, because this is a goofy movie that I would not recommend to people to really watch. It looks like a good film, but it's not really a good film. It's just a nothing film. Uh, like really it just like was a big disappointment, but I was thinking like, well, it's an hour and 25 minutes. If anything, it's not like a huge like burden of like, oh no, I had to sit through 2 hours of this. But no, but still it was just like a nothing movie. So with that said, I think I'm gonna get out of here. Goodbye everybody. Bye everybody.